All right, so the end is in sight. So now we got to deal with these flat cutout letters, which then correspond to the skins. So we're all that's left for metal here is we get to dig out the jiggies and we get to dig out the skins and get those all set up. And then, like I say, we'll then correspond everything, make sure everything lines up. These are the tap holes. We need to then make the bigger holes, the through holes for the studs and whatnot. And then just make sure everything's all dialed together. And then it's time to make the pages and break everything out for DXF files. But that's definitely like just admin kind of stuff. So we're almost done with all the work here. So when it comes to jiggies, so let's dig out the jiggies first. Jiggies are, I know these are jiggies, right? But the construction jiggies are the ones in the corners that actually hold everything together, the jigs. Those get sent to route, and then those are what hold the whole thing together in space with clecos. Now, I purposely make them green for this reason, so I can visually know where they all are. Now, what we're going to do is, because like I said before, jigs don't need to be necessarily kept on track, like vertical this way or this way. So you're just breaking them all apart anyway. So we'll kind of go over here and make our little play area for the faces and the jiggies. I like to kind of keep the faces and the jiggies together because they're kind of their own family. This is all framing. And so the framing needs to be kept like all, OCD over here, making sure everything lines up and everything. But when it comes to the skins and the jiggies, they're just basic through shapes. They don't get shifted. They don't have to, as long as you don't move this cleco here, this shape just gets routed. So it doesn't necessarily have to be all lined up and everything. Now, there are times where the skin might actually have a bend on it for something like the skin goes on there, but we actually have like a flange that gets screwed to the side or something. I don't know. It'd be kind of weird, like a shoebox. I might keep the skin at that point on track because that way I can keep like that flange lined up with the side here or whatever. Then that might be an instance where the skin, but jigs and, skins and jiggies, it's a weird basketball game. Basically we go over here to our little play area and do our thing. So what I like to do is, because we're just grabbing the greens, but I'm trying not to grab too much junk and bring it with, like all this, we have to deal with that. What I'll do is just kind of look to see what I can grab without grabbing too much. So this sign is essentially got no jigs in the middle. So I might just grab this right side, duplicate, drag it over here, and then I'll grab what I can here. Don't be afraid, just grab a lot. Don't leave anything, and then duplicate, drag it over here. There you go. And then that should be an approximation. It should make sense, right? Yeah, there's those jiggies and there's guys. Now you can kind of clean it up by grabbing these guys and then just super, super nudging, because you're just stripping them off of the where they are. And then these guys here, let's just strip them this way just to get them away from all this junk, right? And then we can go ahead and get rid of that. And then we can just grab this cat, bring him back, just grab these guys as much as possible. There you go. So this is just to make sure that everything's there. Don't worry about nuggets yet. This guy can just come over here. We don't need you. Thank you. We don't need you. There you go. And this is just making sure you don't leave anything behind. You're better off grabbing more, just making sure that everything that we need on this jiggy's there. And then you can just kind of strip it out later. But just make sure we do not leave no hole behind. But all this is junk. There we go. So now we can just kind of reassemble. Now what I do is try to keep it looking somewhat like the sign for, again, the Backshop homies. It's a horrible band. That way it kind of makes sense to them, even though it'll come off as a bunch of pile of aluminum to them. But I kind of keep the shapes. Also, what we're going to do is color code the shapes. Again, doesn't do any good in real life because they're all just chunks of aluminum. But for us, it helps to. Oops, there we go. It helps to keep things kind of straight. And then again, it kind of gives them the idea of a sort of a family, a species of different jiggies as it comes out. Like you're like, oh, these pink ones are for this, and then that way also they'll be able to tell right away. So now I can do is strip out. You can use send it here, and if you hit nugget, the yellow, it grabs all nuggets. They're out. And then also anything magenta. So that's another thing is see, it's all green. I don't want anything magenta. So if I just go over to here to Hunter Killer, hit magenta, it's out. There you go. So now everything that's green is a jiggy. And so purposely we have, oh look, see, we're missing one there. Oh, that must have been when I pulled that one out. I took that with it. Oh, boo! Wow. So we know that's just 1 inch and 1 inch. Again, it's good to just work with inch nudge, and I can just go up here because I'm on track. I can just make sure that I'm back to where I should have been. See? I knew something was wrong there. Something just didn't seem right. There we go. Now we're back. Okay, so we know that these were the same, and then I purposely made this the same, and then I made these the same. So that way we don't have to be tripping. So what I'll do is I like to pick these green, down here on my thing, I like these colors for jigs. Just weird pastel, nothing too bright. The idea is that don't set yourself up where you have to stare at this all day. Looking at bright colors all day long really stinks. That's why I like to use subdued colors or just hairlines. And even my hairlines, my wireframes are also kind of subdued colors because you don't want to be looking at, well, first of all, it's hard to find, but just, you just want to pick colors that are easy to on the eye. So I like these pastels for the jigs. There we go. And so we also know that these are the same. So that way the guys know that I can use these colors for the same parts. And then these cats, again, just picking these kind of pastel colors. I like that color for these jigs sometimes. Kind of weird. Even though these are aluminum, but this lets you know that this is a jiggy, even though it's aluminum. So main structural parts get the 10%, like that's aluminum. But these are aluminum, but just letting you know that there's funk going on here. Now this guy here, I might throw that color. So because it's a one of a kind, because it's not this, but it's that, because it has that, remember this weird intersection here. So he's a weird homie. I might even clip the corners weird on this one, and I'll point that out. Let's say I'll radius this at 1/4 of an inch. There you go. So I make this guy really strange. So everyone else is sort of normal, but then this guy, why does this guy got rounded? And I might even put an arrow and say, hey, look for the rounded on this guy when you do it. And then these cats are obviously, they are who they are. And we're going to go purple on those. There you go. So now I can tighten them up, even though the sign isn't quite, it's just kind of skinny. But this is just to kind of let it know this is how it is. I might separate that a little bit, but there you go. So this is a good representation that all of these are the same for that box. And then the same corner goes there, same corners down here. These are all the same, but watch out for homie. And I might actually even flip this because these guys are kind of all the same. I might make him the weirdo. And there you go. You're purple. Like, look at that. Like, purple dude, watch out. Otherwise, everyone else is kind of right? All right, so that's that. Now, I used to do this. So that way there's a good representation of this is the back side. And you need two of these. There's the front, there's the back. But conferring with the router guy, aka Jose, he would rather have one piece that than just put a quantity, because he has to lay out in a certain way. He has to do all the starting points and stuff when he assigns a strategy. So he actually can't just go, I'm going to grab all these and go strategy here, and it just does it. You have to actually do piece by piece. So it's easier for him to do one, do the strategy, and then duplicate it in an array, duplicate array. So that's what you got to do. So I go like this. Now, sometimes it might help for you to visually represent. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. We have 14 of these homeboys, right? Does that check? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times 2. Okay, so I'm going to grab this homie. And then over here on Launchpad, you have quantity. And then I'm going to hit 14. Is that what we said? And then it's going to give me, its default is 4 inch because we're full size. But I like to make it to where it's not too big or not too much smaller than the part. I want it to be nice and clear that that is 14. So we'll lay these out. And again, the color coding helps because now we already know we did the green. This homie, even though there's 2 of them, I'm just going to put quantity 2. He says that's easier than him having to, and I think we decided on 2, right? So I can go ahead and set that over here. I have a drop-down menu. I'm going to put that to 2 so I don't have to keep resizing these every time. Now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of these homies. And I'm going to do quantity 8. And then we've got 4 of these homies, right? And quantity 4. There we go. Now I just like to clean it up. Just make it look like I know what I'm doing a little bit. You know, if you don't fake it till you make it. There you go. So I guess, like I said, I asked him. I think that's easier, he says, because he can then just copy it out. But I still leave this for, that's kind of just, they can get a map. You know, they can just get a quick glance of like, oh, okay, I get the idea. Because these are going to stay wireframe. We don't want to have filled in shapes here because it gets clunky. Things get hidden behind other things. That's why you work in full wireframe so you don't have to keep sending pieces to the top, to the bottom, to the top, to the bottom, to the bottom, to the bottom. Keep this all wireframe, bust it out, and then fill. So this is where our jiggies live, and we're good to go. So next will be the faces. But what I want to do is make sure that these guys are good to go. I just noticed that I did this for the N, where instead of putting an arrow, I went ahead and made the stud holes non-aligned so you can't put it. The problem is the H right here. These H's are very flippable. If you get them too symmetrical, you could have trouble. So I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing. That's an inch. It's quite a bit. So I'm going to bring this back. There you go. I just noticed that. So we want to do that, and then we're going to want to adjust that, right, with the stuff that's on the face already. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that dupe right now while we're here. And then, cool. So now I'm going to go ahead and adjust that. So we just keep track of this so that way there isn't one that's not, and it confuses you. Like, go ahead and get it all fixed now. Right? I'm not worried about duplicates because I'll dig them all out. So now I'm going to grab this and I'm going to hit duplicate checker, and it's going to grab everything, take it back to 1, duplicate checker, and that checks out. Those are all duplicates, but these stayed. All right, so that's better. So now before we deal with the face, I wanted to do that. So that way the guys should notice that when they go to put it on, that they got some funk. So there's no way. Otherwise, everything else, I mean, there's no way to put that on upside down or anything like that. But we did that for the eyes. They're okay. They can be flippable. But that N can be flippable the wrong way. All the rest of these are, you've got issues if you're trying to flip them. All right, so now let's break out the face. So the faces are the same thing. Like I said, unless we're doing a flange on the side or something, the faces don't move. So just like the jiggies, they are just as they are. The holes stay as long as you don't move anything, or like I did, I forgot, I missed that. So now let's grab them. So we could do the whole thing, but again, let's just grab small chunks so we work, because we know that this face is separate, right? And then this face is going to be notched, and it's going to have that finger there. So let's grab this face, duplicate. Don't worry about lining up. Again, that's where we kind of ditch the on track so we can just freeform over here. And then we have this little skin. Got that little guy. So there's that. However, the front has the notch because this pokes out. But we want the back to be one solid piece. And then they're going to go ahead and like mask it off because I think they want this to be painted different. But it is all one flush piece. So I'm going to route it as one piece. So we'll do that as the back. So let's make room here. These are jiggies. So jiggies kind of go over here. We'll make this the back. And I'm going to go ahead and put that over here. I'm going to hit back. There you go. And then we're going to make that like a 10. There you go. And then this will be the front. So I'll go ahead and make this to the sides. It's a little easier to work like that. There we go. All right, so this is the front and that's the back. Again, making it real clear for myself and also the homies. Why not? Why not make it line up? You know, gotta have some pride. And again, I mean, we could try to go back on track this way so it matches. But again, these are just, as long as we don't omit a hole or move one, we're just making an entire big chunk of shape. So, so we'll just start stripping out the stuff towards the edges. Again, we could even get rid of all the nuggets and everything, but we'll do all that en masse here in a second. You'll see. So anyway, I just kind of digging through here. Now what I'm going to do is grab this, get that out of the way so I can now grab the whole piece. And I'm going to double check. I'm just going to shift it. Okay. And yeah, come off. There's no other duplicate piece. This is going to be our face. Because we're not making any guides or anything, I'm going to name this through. So like we did before, now this is my through shape. But I'm not going to fill it in yet because what I'm going to do, so I'm going to do the same thing to this guy. I'm going to get rid of a jiggy so I can then grab the overall. And then I'm going to do through. I'm going to name it through. Okay. Now what we're going to do is do that to this guy. However, this guy, I can actually I can hit through shape because I don't need to do anything to this dude. All I need are clicos and the through shape, right? So I'm just going to take the clicos, shift them a nudge, and then I'm going to take the through shape and shift them down. And then that way we're good to go. Actually, you know what? I'm just going to hit super scraper. I'm going to scrape all that off. There you go. All right. So there's that piece. That guy's good to go. We can get rid of all the other stuff. So, but let's get him out of the way. Give ourselves some room to work. So now that this guy is a through shape, what I'm going to do now, because things can get confusing, is I'm going to put an F for face up right here. And I always put it to the left for some reason. That way, because right now it's easy to see, but once we start getting rid of, well, I mean, this shape is easy, but I'm just saying it just makes it easier to know that you have mirrored something or you haven't. So it's just a good habit to do. Sometimes I'll do it for the entire sign just because, and then, you know, that way you know that everything you're looking at is the face side. And then everything gets flipped. This can be referenced, you know, that I flipped it, that I mirrored it. Because that's helpful for route sometimes. Because route can be like, is this flipped already? Is this, you know, I don't know which way's up. So anyway. All right, so now what we're going to do is flip these. But I'm going to make sure that I mirror that to show that I did that. And then same thing here. Now we don't need to, because honestly, there's nothing we're going to do on this. So we will route this basically backside up. So this goes against the table. This doesn't need to mirror, but we need to kind of put reference things on this. So we will want the inside of the sign. So we want the backside of the face to reference kiss and do things. So we need the backside of that. So we need to tell them that we already flipped this. And we're working from the back side of this. So, all right. So now that we have that, let's go ahead and clean it up and get rid of the stuff we don't need. So we're going to make sure everything's ungrouped. And then we're going to grab send it. And we're going to hit super scraper. And that should theoretically get rid of these jiggy things and the nuggets and everything's gone. But these were already named through shape. But that's no big deal because we just find everything that's green. And they're out of the way. So now we're down to that. We don't need this because that's on the backside of the flat cutout. So that's only for the flat cutout. And then now we're down to 165s that we need. And these are named stud 1024 aluminum. So now we're going to swap out the clearance holes because there's no way that a 3/16 number 10 stud is going to fit into a 0.158 hole. That is for tapping. So we need to change these out. So what we're going to do is we're going to keep well, we don't need to send it because Do It has its own finder. I forgot. So now what we're going to do is normally with a number 10 screw, 3/16, that guy right here, if you hit that, I have a 0.22 and we have a 165. That is my setup for clearance hole for number 10, mated with what you need to put it through. But because we want these to be really tight, so that way it's a little more tough to pull out in case somebody wants to goof. So we're going to put some silicone on these, but we want them to kind of have to like use the back of your hand to kind of bonk, 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 or maybe a soft mallet with a rag or something. So you have to kind of really insert them tight, but not too tight. So I'm going to go for a 0.2, which is because our router runs a little tighter than you think. So I'm going to do a 0.2 for clearance holes. So we're going to use Do It All, and we're going to do OG shape to copy, and the green means it's loaded. So it knows that you want to copy at 0.2, and then tell me what you want to copy it to. Now I hit pick, and it loads up stud. And so I'm just going to select everything, and I'm going to hit go, and it's going to find just the studs. And now I'm going to say OG shape to copy. I'm going to erase the originals, and I'm going to apply to all shapes, and there we go. So now the face is ready to go. I might, just because I want to have record of what I just did, kind of like a giant undo, I'm going to go ahead and leave that, and then I'm just going to go ahead. Now I can get rid of everything that I don't want. And then these clearance holes are good to go. And then what color? All aluminum gets 10% black. And I'm going to send it to the back. There's our through shape, and we're good to go. Is it named through shape? Yep. Double check. Now, which way is up? Which way is down? So I'm going to throw an arrow on there for the homies. There we go. And that's the face. And then I might even put face. I mean, obviously the one with all the holes. But do we need that for the back? No, we don't. But that's also going to be attached, so we don't have a separate face. So that will just all be there. That's how that rolls. All right? So that's kind of how I do that. That's the face for that. We're going to do the same thing. Now, again, so because we're freeform here, I don't have to, because this is kind of in the way now. So I'm going to bring this down here, and I'm going to kind of do the same thing. So now that I have this named as through shape, I can go ahead and grab everything, super scraper, and then I bring it over here and just confirm that everything I see is junk. You know, I don't need these nuggets, don't need these lines, don't need those, don't need any of that. That way I don't have a false positive. And then these are green. So again, I'm just picking the outline. Okay. And then these cats are named. So I'm going to pick that name. That's a 1/2 inch. I'm going to get rid of those just by name, so that way I don't have to deal with that. I'm going to go around the perimeter. Okay, these are 0.18 rivets. Send It has those, so we don't need those in the face. So if I hit 18 rivet right here, I'm going to grab those out of the way. And then we don't need any of that, but we do need those cleco holes though, don't we? So we can get rid of that. So let's just, these are blue outline. There you go. See, that's what color code things. All right, so there's all the cleco holes that we're going to use to lords this face on, the epoxy. And then actually we can maybe get rid of any duplicate, just one less little thing. I say duplicate, these are all pretty close together. You really don't need those that close, because you can put a cleco here and a cleco there, and that's going to hold that down pretty good. That's just one less thing to Bondo. Now we need to do what we just did. So we can grab a 0.2 here, copy it, bring it over, and then let's do it all again. So that's the OG shape. I already have this loaded for studs. So I hit go. There they are. OG shapes, erase originals. There we go. And now we can get rid of everything with a, is that a blue? Sometimes I put blue on when I don't want to, but we can get rid of those. Or we can call them F calls. They're named, right? There you go. Oh, Mr. L didn't get named? Or I didn't select him. Okay. There we go. And what color? 10% And then I know it's pretty obvious which way it goes up, but to me it is. Who knows? Let's just help a brother out. All right. That's that. That's the face. This guy is, we again help a brother out. Come over here. Break it back to objects. Oops. This guy's symmetrical, so don't have to worry about that. And there is 2 of those, but again, we'll just do a quantity 2 for router. And then, so let's, again, we're kind of spreading out there. So let's, could bring this over here. There we go. So we kind of have our record left. And then the back, we'll do the same thing. So this guy is just going to be one giant boy. So now actually I need to kind of modify this to, because it's all broken apart. So no big deal. So let's work separately somewhere over here just to make the shape. So let me grab that and let me grab this. And then I'm just going to kind of go over here, do my own thing. Yeah, I mean, there's different ways to do this. I could grab those nodes, but I'm just going to go like that. And then I'm just going to go like this. And then I'm going to weld that to that. Make sure I'm on the nodes though, right? Make sure I'm clean. Everything's looking good. So I'm going to take that. I'm going to weld that to that. There we go. And then we're going to make this some weird color just because. And then that should line up. Like, just grab a node over here, grab a jiggy, grab a nugget. And then I'm going to go ahead and temporarily make this like purple, just so I know I'm going to send it to the back. But I'm going to make sure that everything makes sense. Because remember, we have that 0.01 space. So that's making sense. And I'm going to go to the top just to see that nothing's poking out. Send it to the top, send it to the bottom, send it to the top, send it to the bottom. Yep. And then maybe even go X-ray vision. Make sure there's no craziness going on. Yep. We're good. So now, what do we need here? We just need this as a through shape. So I'm actually just going to duplicate it and bring it down. And then I'm just going to grab all 165s because they're named. So I'm going to go over here. I'm going to hit 165. And then I'm going to duplicate it. And then I'm going to just kind of on track, bring them down. And then everything else is rubbish because we don't have words on the back. We don't need any of that. We just need the 165s. And we just need, and we're going to name that a through shape. There we go. Now, this is like super duplicate, but you are kind of lordsing to 2 different frame parts. So we can leave that. It's a little bit of some Bondo work, but it's better to have that. That way you can nail it down to the different frame parts. But we can do what we did here though. Let's go X-ray. We can get rid of these guys. Those are just that much more. These guys are not needed. Thank you. There you go. Now, just to make sure that homies know what's up, we can go back and then up. So that way they know. Because if you don't mark this, you could theoretically lords this to the front of this, kinda. I mean, you can't, but I'm just saying, like, there's ways to, if you don't mark it, then there's just a chunk of aluminum that could go either way. So take the time, back, up. It just makes things that much easier when you're cranking back there and everything is due tomorrow, and you're up against it and you can't see straight because you've been working. There you go. So that's ready to go. That's the back. This is the front. So that wasn't too much work. I'm probably just get rid of these because sometimes it's good to have that record, but I don't need that just to declutter the place. However, I am going to leave this here because that was like the stud mount nonsense, just to have that, just in case I need to go back to it. But anyway, so we got 0.2s ready to go, a little tighter than normal. We have all the letters laid out. Swiss cheese that thing pretty good. We got jiggies. We got faces. So now let's make the flat cutouts, which is just all this is now is just transferring this and flipping it because they have to be routed this way. So we know what we do there, right? Let's make it a 10. Let's make it an 8. There we go. And we're going to flip just to know. I mean, it's obvious. Well, just making sure. Make sure you know. And then since these are going to be aluminum, these will stay that. So we're going to go through, and because they're named, I'm going to hit F call, and theoretically they should all move, right? There you go. And then these guys are all, and I'm going to send it to the bottom. So that way I'm not covering up any holes. That way I can easily see that, So we got F calls ready to send. That's the way they should be. Double check, holes are good. We adjusted this little guy with his pant leg is up a little bit. He's got that 90s look. He's got a pager on his suspenders. So those are ready. We got faces ready. We can, you don't have to be so antisocial. You can come up here, join the party a little bit. Again, I'm just trying to organize it to where, thank you for your service. We're good. The guys are going to get this. That's their work page. So I try to make it look, I try to keep this in the center as much as possible, but this could probably go. There you go. Because we got that all figured out from here. And all of that, because this is why I don't destroy this. We got all that from here anyway. So that can just go. So this is the layout for that. That's our flat cutouts. This is our face and jiggies. So there's that. And this is kind of how I do it. Any kind of weirdness was over here. Down here in this lower quadrant is jiggies and faces. And then on track OCD system is left, right, top, and bottom. And then this will be the post. So, all right, so we're almost there. I'll call it a break here. And then we're ready to break these out to DXF and then get the final information on here that the guys might need. And that's it.